Hello, welcome back to the We Are City channel for the official start of the usually called reboot. It's going to be called the rebuild here. Introduction episode to the new series here starting the channel on FC25 career mode, where we intend to rebuild a failing and really floundering Manchester City side, a City side that were once at the top of world football, now seem like they're so far off it, with aging players, with the side needing to be rebuilt. New sporting director Hugo Viana to take over in the summer, so lots of extra things could be happening in terms of that different style of transfers maybe, with that Pep Guardiola sign, new 2-year deal, committed to taking this City side back to the top of Europe. And this City side have been failing. We are now just in a top 4 battle, aren't we, this season? We're out of cup competitions, we're not in a title race. That is way below Manchester City standards, and the intention is to make things change. City have already started to change things in the January transfer window with big signs like Kusanov, like Marmoush, like Nico, like, of course, Vita Heiss as well. But City want to take it to the next step. We want to be back being title contenders, and we want to be, once again, European contenders. I mean, City with only one Champions League trophy in the club's history, that is something I would like to change in the rebuild, if possible as well. So we know what's going to happen. Let's get right into all the details. Of course, Pep Guardiola will be in charge of this City side. There's no changes there. We're going to keep this as realistic as possible, and for that, we're going to actually use the new lifestyle point updates that are in the FC25 career. You can jump in at a certain point. We're going to jump in at Manchester City versus Liverpool. So after that disappointing, a really poor performance in Real Madrid where City was smashed, I think we want to start from there. So we're going to start before the game against Liverpool at home, and the intention of trying to launch ourselves up that Premier League table. At the live start point, you can see 25 Premier League games played. We are in the Premier League title race, no more, but we are in a race for top 4, and we are still in the Emirates FA Cup as well. We see some 44 points in 4th place. The intention is to finish in the top 4, and that would mean having to perform pretty well in the last 12 games or so of the Premier League season. That is how the Premier League table is looking. Side down at the bottom, Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich look like they could be down, but Wolves, West Ham United, Manchester United could even be dragged into there as well, even Crystal Palace, Everton, I suppose. But we are going to start from that point. That is what I've decided. That is where we think the catalyst can change, can be. Now, one thing that you guys always mention to us in these series is what are your sliders. Get a lot of comments. The introductory episode, we're going to cover the sliders right here now, so you know that I intend to try and build the most realistic gameplay as absolutely possible. So sliders are on screen for you. We have weather effects on, and we have the wind effects on low. That is the intention, to try and keep it as good as possible. They do affect a lot of the way the ball plays. With the intention is to slow the gameplay down and make it like a simulation of real life football. That is the intention. So sprint speed for the user 38, sprint for the CPU 42, 52 for acceleration, shot error bumped up massively to 65. Both teams making more mistakes in front of goal. Might mean less goals, might also mean more realistic gameplay. That's the intention of these community sliders. 60 for pass error, shot speed comes down to 48, and we bump the pass speed down massively as well, equal at 35. A lot of these sliders are equal between the CPU and user. Mainly it's just the sprint speed that is changed, and a few other little things as well. Injury frequency, we're bumping up to 70 for both. That means more injuries for the players, but we turn the injury severity down to 35, which means more injuries like in real life. I mean, look at how many injuries City have had this season. Archaea, Candy, Stones, the list goes on. But of course, they aren't as severe as they need to be. Goalkeeper ability, we've dropped down to 45 as well. With that shot error going up, it makes sense to drop that down. That's the way the community slides have worked things out. Marking is on 60 for both. The run frequency comes down a lot. We don't want the game just lots of runs. It's very difficult to defend that sort of style of football. And players aren't robots. They can't make 100 runs a game and keep resetting. So we've gone 20-25 for those. The line height, we've gone for 75 for each. So quite a high line play by all teams. We're actually going to bump Manchester City up to 80. I decided to do that because Pep Guardiola plays the intense style of football. We want to play a high line anyway. Line length is down to 35, and there you are. I can see I moved the line height up to 80. Line width stays at 50, no changes there for the CPU or ourselves. Fullback position, we bump up massively to 75 for both. So we see much more attacking fullbacks in the modern game. Whether they tuck in, whether they are wide, whatever they do, they are more attacking. Power bar stays at 50. That is totally personal preference, that one. And then first control error, this it really adds to the realism, how heavy players are taking that first touch. 80 on for CPU and user. Now for the AI behaviour, you could go dynamic, but I have gone with custom and picked out a custom one, which apparently works really well with the game. So 62 tackle aggression, aggression, a build-up speed to 45, shot frequency we're going to bump that up to 62, more shots in the game which is needed, more shots and range. First touch pass frequency, not happens very often, so down to 32. Crossing frequency up to 82 because they literally do not want to cross in this game. Dribble frequency stays at 50, and then we move other things down to 40 as well. Transfer negotiations we keep at realistic. We're going to move them to realistic. Approaches will stay at loose because we don't want to hamper any moves we do make for players, but negotiations want to be realistic. We want this to be as realistic as possible. That is always the intention of our career modes. That is something you guys actually really enjoy about these career modes. We do keep them realistic, and for that as reason as well, we aren't going to be scouting players, just going to have it on instant. We'll know what overall they are already. And in terms of board expectations, no sacking for Pep Guardiola because the City would never sack him. International job offers off, and we're going to go for currency euros, the most widely used one. So everything's set up and ready to go. It's time to have a look at the squad that we'll be taking into this season, finishing off this season with before making changes. Starting off with our goalkeepers, we've got a 38-year-old Scott Carson who actually, status-wise, has decided to retire at the end of the season. That is something that I'm out of my control. So we will be looking for a new third-choice goalkeeper. It's not a massive part of the game, really, looking for that one. We've actually changed the players' overalls as well, downgraded quite a lot of players because of their performances for City. So Stefan Ortega, he's gone down to 80 rated. I think he starts at 81. With him 80 rated. He's our second-choice goalkeeper. His future's uncertain at the club. He's out of contract, not next year, but the year after. City would have to cash in him or trying to get him to sign a new deal if they want to keep him around. But he's a very good second-choice goalkeeper. I think he can play a big part for us in our FA Cup run, what remains of it anyway, in this first season, or the end of this first season, where we've only got a few months left. Edison, who's currently our first-choice goalkeeper, I downgraded him to 85. He's had a poor season for Manchester City, I do believe. He's wanted to leave to Saudi last summer. He ended up staying in the end, but he still might want to leave Manchester City at the end of it. He is going to be our first-choice goalkeeper, 85 rated, but there is questions over his future, and of course 85 rated is a big downgrade actually from what he was at, but I think he's thoroughly deserved the performances he's been putting in. So on to defenders, we've got Joško Vardiol, who's our starting left-back. He's 82 rated. I've actually changed some of these stats. I think he's actually 84 rated in real life. I think going forward, I've improved him in lots of ways going forward, Joško Vardiol, because actually his attacking areas of his game are absolutely unbelievable. His defensive issues, they do lie in. A new signing for our youth team, brought in January, Christian McFarlane. He's been bumped to the 63 rated. He's actually really highly rated for Manchester City's youth team, and I think he can play a big role in the future of this club. Not this season, of course, but 63 rated at left back. Centre-back wise, we've got Jemai Simpson-Puzet. He's only 67 rated. I don't think a bit of an upgrade for him, I'm not quite sure. 18 years of age, one that is impressed with his ability on the ball, but when it's come to his actual defensive start of the game, that has been difficult for Jemai Simpson-Puzet. We've got new signing Vita Heiss. He's 73 rated. He's showing great potential, only 18 years of age. He can be a big player for Manchester City this season, and for the future as well. He can play in those cup games, and he has got a really big potential, I think, at the club. So he is going to play as sort of a fifth choice centre-back for the club, because City have got big issues at centre-back with injuries. One of those is, of course, John Stones, 83 rated. His injury issues have been just absolutely massive problems for City throughout the season, haven't they? 83 rated. Whether Stone stays at the club in this rebuild, I don't know. We have to work with what we've got at the moment, really, until the end of the season, which isn't long, which isn't far away. And then when we get into season 2, we will start to make the big change in the side. The same goes for Nathan Ake, who's in a similar boat to John Stones, however, recently having surgery. Hopefully, he is okay enough to maybe stick around, maybe more so than John Stones. Purely the fact that he's left foot, and Nathan Ake maybe he's a little bit higher up that pecking order, because we do have a lot of right side centre backs, and we want someone who can play on left. Nathan Ake is that, and he actually counts like John Stones because he's English. Ake counts as a homegrown player. We've got Manu Akanji as well, who's gone down to 81 rating. He hasn't had an amazing season for City. I think he's been pretty poor, but we've got so many areas this side to actually improve the transfer market. Then we don't know whether actually changing the defence is what's needed right now. I think certainly fullbacks is an area I want to improve upon, but centre-back we might have to stick with what we've got. Ruben Diaz, who has had his injury issues this season, but we know quality player he is. 86 rated, captain of the club. Most of the time when De Bruyne isn't there, he's probably going to be future captain of the club, with Kevin De Bruyne likely to leave the club. We'll go into that, of course, maybe more so in season 2 and partly in this season 1 as well. But yeah, 86 rated. Most of these players have been given a downgrade. I think it was necessary to do so. New signing and absolute revelation. Abu Qadir Kusanov, who's been absolutely fantastic for this Manchester City side. He's an unbelievable talent, and I actually think he's going to be my starter here in Season 1, and I think he's going to be a starter in Season 2 as well, and I'm really excited to see, with his pace, with his physical stats, how far he can go in this series as probably the starting #1 centre-back. We also have young Max Lane as well. He's come through the youth system. He's actually part of the Manchester City first team, so he is in and around the City side, and he's 63 rated, and hopefully he can make an impact on the City side. With all these injuries in the centre-back roles, he might have to be called upon. And the only official right-back in our squad is Rico Lewis, who's 76 rated, a downgrade for his performances. He's an official right-back, but we don't even know if that's his actual position. The future of City's fullbacks is a big issue, with Walker leaving the club to AC Milan and so on. We need to really strengthen the fullback areas. Rico Lewis, though, I think is going to play a lot this season at right back for us in Season 1. Maybe even Mateus Nunes as well, because we don't have many other options. Then into the midfielders, of course, we do have Rodri, who is going to miss till the end of the season. We might be able to get him in the final game of the Premier League season. We're hoping he's going to be back to the Club World Cup, but I wanted to include him in this because he is one of the world's best. He is the world's best player. He's Ballon d'Or winner, so we do want Rodri in and around the side as quickly as possible once again. I'm excited to have him back in Season 2. I think City have really missed, we've missed him massively. Nico's come in to try and play an impact role in that Rodri position. I think Pep Guardiola sees him more as a central midfielder, more of an Ilkay Gundogan maybe in that sense. He's got similarities maybe to Declan Rice. I think he can have a big impact on Manchester City this season. I think he can have a big role to play for us in Season 1 here in getting us top 4, because without Rodri we don't have a natural player in that whole midfield position. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of these signings that we've made. Nico certainly is one that I think can work really well alongside Rodri. Chiveno is more of a prospect for the future. Listed left midfielder at 18 years of age, only already 75 rated. I do think he's going to play a part in this City side. We want to get him bedded into the Manchester City team as quickly as possible and let him make an impact as quickly as possible. With Ilkay Gundogan out of contract at the end of the season, could sign a new deal at City depending on how many games he does play. We downgrade him to 79 rated. I do genuinely believe that Ilkay Gundogan has been that poor. I don't think he's any better than Nico at 33 years of age. I personally think we need to be ruthless in this rebuild. I really do go into Season 2, and I don't think there's any way we can give Ilkay Gundogan a new deal. I genuinely don't think we can be giving him a new deal. Kevin De Bruyne, in a very similar circumstance, I've downgraded him to 87 rated, 33 now, and his physical stats have been massively downgraded. That was what we have done, because he can't last 90 minutes of football. He can barely play more than one game a week, and you can see that in his performances, can't you? That is a big worry. I think the injuries have built up over the years for Kevin De Bruyne, and like Ilkay Gundogan, I think he's just at the end of his time at Manchester City, and it would be cruel to keep him around, really, because he needs to leave as a legend at the best of his game. Mateo Kovacic, another midfielder we've got a bit of a forgotten man at times. He's played key moments for City, but he's a player also in the midfield. I think the midfield is the biggest area we're going to concentrate on in the rebuild, which we're going to get into, by the way. We're going to look at our transfer targets and what we're looking for in the transfer market. But yeah, Mateo Kovacic, I feel like he is a player that if he doesn't want to go and he wants to stick around, we'll keep him around. If not, we'll let him go. But Al Silva downgrading to 84. I think that still feels a little bit generous in the rating, actually, because he has been that poor for Manchester City this season. He's a player that's wanted to leave the club time and time again. I know he's a favourite of Pep Guardiola, but it seems like it's just time up for Bernardo Silva. It really does. It seems like it's time to move on. He's just... I don't see what he's got to his game that actually brings us side anymore. I really don't. We've got Mateus Nunes, who's been actually quite a decent performer for City, but never been played in central midfield. Pep Guardiola plays neither out wide or at fullback. That's not his role. I think when players are back fit and ready, he's not going to get in that left-hand side ahead of Jeremy Doku or Savinho, and he's not going to get it right back if we sign a new fullback. So I think his future is uncertain. Pep Guardiola refuses to use him in midfield. Clearly doesn't see him there, so I'm happy to let him go. A big upgrade for Nico O'Reilly, 72 rated. I've bumped him up to. I think he's going to play a key role for us. The intention is for him to play a key role for us next year. And with all these midfielders we've just mentioned, I mean, Nunes, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, Gundogan, De Bruyne, that could be 5 midfielders going there. It really genuinely could be. Nico O'Reilly, he needs to get his chance in the team, and I think he could do with the quality he's shown, the physical attributes he has. He's certainly a top player for the future of this Manchester City side. He's 6'4". He's everything perhaps we're missing in the City team. So continuing with the midfielders, we've got Jack Grealish. 80 rated, a big downgrade for him. It could have been even bigger. He's been so poor for Manchester City. Other than that treble season, we haven't seen anything from Jack Grealish. He's a player that also, in 2 seasons, out of contract. So City are in a bit of a situation where do we try and sell him and get some money back for him, or do you end up losing him on a free and just sticking around, paying him a lot of wages in the transfer market? I'm also actually going to change the contracts of these players so they're all on the wages reported that they're actually on. We've got Jeremy Doku, who I see big potential at Manchester City. I mean, he's 22, Jeremy Doku. I'm not writing him off just yet. I think he's got qualities that are so hard to come by in a player. His explosiveness, his ability to beat a man is better than anyone else in world football at times. I think he's a nuclear weapon, you could say, in one-on-one situations. Yes, he's finishing his final ball and needs work on, but we will work on that. Savinho, 83 rated, he's been a really good player for City. I mean, he's only 20 years of age, you've got to remember that. So I think him in the side, he's a mainstay. He's absolutely going nowhere in this City team. We're only going to touch lightly on the rebuild, because when we get into Season 2, when we actually start to touch on the players that we intend to leave and go, you'll see how many players I actually do genuinely rate and think shouldn't go anywhere, and how many we don't care about. Phil Foden, 85 rated, deserved downgrade for him. He's had player of the season last year, Premier League player of the season, PFA player of the season. The drop-off from Phil Foden this year has been unbelievable. I don't know if it's physical, if it's off-the-field issues. Obviously, I'll always trust in Phil Foden. He's come through the City youth system. We love him. But I'm not entirely sure that going into next season, depending on his performances, that he's a starter here. We've got James McAtee, whose future's also pretty uncertain at City. He's 21 now, 75 rated. He's getting to that stage where he's got to start playing more football. Pep Guardiola has at times trusted him. I mean, he's picked him ahead of Jack Grealish to come on in games and so on. But that being said, he's left him out of squads as well, Pep Guardiola, and gone for the more experienced players. I think McAtee, he's out of contract at the end of the year. If he doesn't sign a new deal, City will be looking to try and move him on. They'll get decent money for him. A side like Bayer Leverkusen have been interested, Borussia Dortmund. We've got Oscar Bob, we mustn't forget about. I mean, he's been injured for a long time. What a player. We've given him a big upgrade to 77. He was amazing in pre-season. I think he would have had a massive breakthrough season if it wasn't for the injuries that he's suffered, that leg break. I can't wait to get him back in this City side. And I think getting him back from that injury, he could play a massive part going into the end of Season 1 and that push for top 4. And finally, the strikers in the squad, of course. City striking Viking Erling Haaland, 90 rated. I mean, I think he has gone down a little bit from the 91 that he was from his performances last season. He's going to score goals no matter what. He's got a 10-year contract at Manchester City. The squad is going to be constantly built around him being the focal point. Pep Guardiola building a new City side in this rebuild. He's the focal point at striker, and then the pieces of the puzzle will be built around him being a striker. New signing Mamouche, who has been a fantastic signing, I think, so far. Yes, he's got things to work on in his game, but he's got a lot to his game, I think, that Manchester City are missing. The runs he makes, the energy he's got, and he's a finisher. Another goal scorer, which City have certainly been lacking, I think, this year since the departure of Julian Alvarez. So big hopes for him going into the end of the season. I think he's one more so than Nico, maybe, and more so than Vita Hneis and Kusanov, who can make the most big impact because of his rating, because of the quality of player he already is. And then finally, David Mbama, who is expected maybe to leave the club on loan. I've given him a nice upgrade there to 67 rated. He's actually a really good player, a good hold-up striker. I suspect he'll be one that's sold for profit maybe in the future, but he's in and around the squad. He might get a game or so in the FA Cup before the end of the season, but certainly what he will be doing is going out on loan next year, hopefully developing and maybe being part of the City side for the future team. That's the squad. Let's meet some extras also now as we meet the youth system now. So yes, we've added the Manchester City youth system to the career mode. We've added some big new players added into there. You can see at the bottom here, of course, Nico Riley and Vita Hneis there, who are already in the game. A few that are already in the game, but we've added some players as well. And a nice big youth squad of players to pick from, because City's new sporting director, Hugo Viana, he prides himself on bringing in signings. But one thing he'd like to see is players come through the youth system. And we want City next year in Season 2, going to Season 2. I want a 25-man squad. I want to increase the squad size, get more players and get a nice big 25-man squad. And anything extra, any 5 men extra, maybe a 30-man squad, comes from the players in the youth system. So we've got, in goalkeeper, we've got Spike Brits, a young, high-potential goalkeeper. Jamai Simpson-Pouze, who of course we know about. Stefan Mafuni, who is a left-footed centre-back, high potential again. Max Elaine. We've got Kyle Samuel, who's a right-back, one for the future certainly. Maybe one that can play more football. Maybe some of these players leave on loan. We've got Christian McFarlane, who's in the youth system. He's a left-back. We've got a full starting 11 of youth players. We've got David Makassa, who prides himself on being the like of Zinedine Zidane, Kevin De Bruyne. He really... built his game around. He's the one that City fans are really excited about. He's one the City scouts are really excited about, and he's one I'm really excited about. 66 rated. He's certainly, I expect, to be part of the City side in Season 2. I'd like to see him get quite a lot of games in the Cup and then see where it goes on from there. We've got Justin Odobodu, who is a centre midfielder, a striker, a wide player, a very creative player, can even play as number 8, very versatile forward player who's shown lots of high potential. Ryan McAdoo, who's been brought in from Chelsea, and he looks the real deal. Only 16 years of age, that right hand side, a right winger, but looks really exciting. We've got Fahad Alfa-Ruprecht, who says that he wants to be like Kylian Mbappe. He can play on the left or right, even through the middle as well. He's an exciting young German player, and of course the Vinmavama as well, who's the highest rated out of those official youth players alongside Jamai Simpson-Puzet. Of course the higher rated ones are the ones who've played and been part of the City first team. But we've got a massive amount of high potential young players there that I do believe and I know need to be part of the City squad going to Season 2, into Season 3 and the future, and the rebuild will not be without these guys. These guys, we've got such an amazing youth system, we've pumped so much money into it, we've got to blood them into that first team and get them part as being Manchester City players. And I mean some of those, Ryan McAdoo, Makassa, Mafuni, those three especially I think I'm the most excited about. But I want to end today's episode with something that will really build your excitement going into the rebuild. That is the targets for the rebuild, what we are looking for in the transfer market, starting with goalkeeper, which is replacing Edison. Diogo Costa, heavily linked with Manchester City as perhaps an option to replace Edison. We are looking for a goalkeeper who is confident on the ball. Martin Bulker seems to fit the bill as well. We have got 4 or 5 players in each position. These are just the preliminary, I would say, targets. We've got bigger targets, more targets as well as these, but we just wanted to end the episode in this way. Unai Simon could come in, be the man to replace Edison. He's got a release clause of a lot of money, but one that made Manchester City decide that we have to go and pay the money for. We need a new goalkeeper, someone who's for the future of this back line, someone who is confident with that back line behind him. Di Gregorio of Juventus is another option. The man who's playing his time in Italy has been very impressive for Thiago Motta's side. He's only on loan there, it's not a permanent deal, but the move is option to be permanent. Of course, some say why not bring back James Trafford? Been fantastic in the Championship for Burnley, would count as a homegrown option. Should Manchester City look and bring him back to the club, we've got to buy back around 40 million and make him the new number 1 for next season if we were to lose Edison. Now, fullback is another issue that I think we've got big issues with. Omar Hilali has been linked to Manchester City as a younger fullback. We're looking for sort of 2 players, one that can play on the left or the right, one that is a starter, and again we're looking for players that could be homegrown as well. I mean, Ola Ryan has been fantastic for Forest, out of contract at the end of the season. He could be a fantastic signing. He can play on the left and right hand side, and he does count as a homegrown player. And looking for those versatile footballers is something we look for as well. We're also looking at Andrea Cambiasso, heavily linked with Manchester City, can play left or right, very, very two-footed. Nearly joined City in the January transfer window. City expected to go back from him again in the summer. Maybe he's our first signing of the rebuild. We've got Anthony Robinson of Fulham, one of the standout players this season, but he wants to play and he can only play really at left back. Does that mean that we move Vardy to centre back and bring Robinson in to play first choice left back? That is a conundrum that could come into call. We've got Jeremy Frimpong, who's expected to leave Bayer Leverkusen with a release clause of around 40 million euros. Former City player, can play a really attacking right back role, can play in the wing as well. I think he could be a fantastic signing despite issues and questions around his defensibility. We're looking for also a midfielder who's a real ball-winning, aggressive midfielder, someone who's going to add a bit of engine to that Manchester City midfield that City have lost with the decline of the likes of Bernardo Silva. Bruno Guimaraes, Manchester City's main target last summer, and the end City decided to not go for him due to his transfer fee. Maybe we go back for him as that engine in City's midfield. Could we go for a fellow Premier League player in Carlos Baleba, who's been shining at Brighton, another real engine, physical midfielder? That is what we are lacking at times, and Carlos Baleba could just be the man to come in and play that engine room midfield role. Or could it be someone heavily linked with City, someone who, looking at his stats there, is an incredible all-rounder, and he's out of contract at the end of next season. Edison of Atalanta, only 24 years of age. City needs someone who can do every aspect of the game from midfield, a real all-rounder. Guimaraes, Edison, and also Baleba stand out for that role. Also for the midfield, looking for someone who's a bit more of a controller, someone who can dictate the tempo of the game, someone who's a top world-class passer, someone like Ilkay Gundogan with his decline. Angelo Stiller of Stuttgart stands out as a player that we could make a move for. He seems to maybe have a release clause. He seems to be a good option in that area of the game. If we're looking for someone who's a more homegrown option, but also someone who Doesn't play like your typical English player, someone who's fantastic on the ball and can dictate the tempo of a game. Adam Wharton, imagine him alongside Rodri in that midfield. That could really make things tick for Manchester City. Or do we go for someone who is cheaper option, really, someone who's not quite as coveted as Adam Wharton, as Angelo Stiller, in Samuel Irici, who has been linked heavily with AC Milan, was linked with City before he signed a new deal at Torino, but is expected to leave the club in the summer, and perhaps he's one on Hugo Viana's shortlist as a new midfield option. We don't stop there in the midfield, because attacking midfield is one of the main problems on the City side. If City were to lose Kevin De Bruyne, we need a creative hub, a new creative hub. Could that be Xavi Simons, who has made a permanent move to RB Leipzig? Could he be the man to come in and replace Kevin De Bruyne? That would be a very exciting signing. We've got Orhan Sanket of Athletic Club, who has been banging in the goals there. A massive release clause, but a massively talented player, still in the very early stage of his game. Could he be the new creative hub in that Manchester City midfield that we would lose with Kevin De Bruyne declining perhaps on his way out? And of course, we don't know whether he stays. We don't know the form of Phil Foden. Will he progress back to the normal level he could be? And still, is Phil Foden that creative player we're looking for? If we're looking for a homegrown option, someone who's really shone this year at Nottingham Forest, is Morgan Gibbs-White. Could he be an out there option for this Manchester City side? Or do City just break the bank for the biggest and best talent they can do in that position and bring in a man that is very heavily linked with Manchester City, the ideal heir to Kevin De Bruyne, as Pep Guardiola and Manchester City do believe, but a very difficult transfer to pull off in Florian Wirtz. Get excited, because once we start making those transfers in Season 2, exciting things are going to happen. Before that, we've got to make sure we end the season in strong fashion. We want to get to the FA Cup final. We have to finish in the top 4 before we can make big signs like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.